Season 3 of Marvel Rivals is finally here, and with it comes another major balance shakeup that shifts the power levels of nearly every hero in the entire game, as well as the addition of new heroes like Phoenix. And in today's video, I'm bringing you the ultimate Season 3 counter guide, breaking down exactly how to shut down every Vanguard, every Duelist, and every strategist in Marvel Rivals, both in terms of strategy and direct hero counters. And of course, I have to ask you YouTuber things: like the video if you like it, subscribe if you're new or you're coming back on the regular. At 20,000 subscribers, we're doing a giveaway, so I highly recommend subscribing so you can take part. But without further ado, I hope you sit back, relax, and enjoy this show. Doctor Strange continues to be one of the most dominant Vanguards in Season 3, especially in coordinated play, but that doesn't mean he's unstoppable. In fact, a lot of players lose to him simply because they're giving him way too much respect, and here's how you actually punish him. The first being that his shield isn't infinite, you want to break it early. Unlike Magneto's bubble, which absorbs any amount of damage for a short time, Strange's shield has a fixed health value. That means it can be broken, and you should be trying to break it every chance you get. Whether it's light poke damage during the neutral, chip shots from range, and especially burst combos from Punisher. You can even throw in Rocket, Loki, Starlord, any characters, Squirrel Girl. Any characters are going to be doing a ton of damage. Breaking his shield before a fight starts forces him to play passive, burn cooldowns early, or disengage completely. Now this is especially important when you're playing with ultimate based comps. Strange's shield can completely nullify huge ultimates like Hela's. You could even throw in, heal blocking from a Lunasino ultimate, but that's only if his shield is still up. If you break it early, he has no tools to block those plays. Then you want to track his flight cooldown. His flight is on a 15-second cooldown and is one of the most important parts of his entire kit, both for mobility and setting up for his ultimate, Eye of Agamotto. Once it's down, he's pretty vulnerable. Characters like Groot can capitalize by walling him off, forcing that flight out. Flankers and crowd control heavy heroes like Winter Soldier or other heroes can collapse on him before he escapes, and you always want to watch for the combo. Strange players love to fly up, then drop the ultimate from above. If you know the flight is coming, you can preemptively shut it down with a push, a stun. It's predictable, so punish it. Then let's talk about countering the ultimate. Strange's ultimate is still deadly, even with the minor Season 3 changes. It's strong, but it's not unbeatable. Invisible Woman can push him out mid-cast. Winter Soldier can hook him out of the air before the full cast. Luna, Mantis can interrupt with a freeze or a stun. And if you're playing a dive hero like Wolverine or Psylocke, you can look to burst him down during this window. Just keep in mind, if you cancel his ult, he still gets 50% charge refunded, so be ready to deal with him again shortly after. And of course, don't forget the portal. Strange's portal is one of the biggest and most impactful tools in the entire game. Just because you wipe the enemy team doesn't mean you've secured the point. Strange can portal back in, judge payload, and reset the fight. If you're pushing for final cap or a crucial checkpoint, spread out, watch flanks, and control high ground to deny a surprise portal retake. You can even send a crowd control hero like Hulk ahead to catch him before he touches. So what's our key takeaways? Break the shield before a fight starts. Don't let him zone for free. You want to track his flight and punish him once it's burned. You want to save crowd control effects for his ultimate, or displace or cancel it mid-cast. Then of course you want to watch for the portal post-fight. Strange can retouch and clutch. And that's essentially how you counter Doctor Strange in Marvel Rivals Season 3. Now if I could just take a minute of your time to talk about today's sponsor, Control. And I'm excited to share that this video is sponsored by Control. A delicious protein packed snack or just a tasty way to fuel your day, Control has you covered. And personally, I'm all about their peanut butter pieces cookies. Seriously, they taste amazing and they fit perfectly into my daily routine. Whether it's a quick shake in the morning or a protein packed snack in the afternoon, Control's products are both macro friendly and ridiculously tasty. And now they've got two new must-try products. First off is their Monster Cookie, a soft-baked protein cookie loaded with white and milk chocolate chips plus crushed cookie pieces, and it tastes ridiculously amazing. And if you're more of a protein shake friend, they have a Paradise Potion Shake. It's a refreshing mix of sweet coconut and tart pineapple blended into and it's honestly fantastic. Now Control's snacks and shakes are designed to fuel active lifestyles, whether you're hitting the gym, gaming for hours, or just need a convenient, nutritious option. If you're looking for your next go-to protein shake, check out Control's website using the link in description or scan the QR code on screen. And don't forget, use code DUCK at checkout to save 10% on order. But anyways, back to the video. Moving on, we come to Magneto. And Magneto is still a top tier space controller in Season 3. But now that more players understand his kit, there are always ways to punish him. One of the biggest things you want to be looking out for is exploiting his slow movement. Magneto has no real mobility, and his only escape is walking or using terrain, and you want to abuse this with dive heroes like Psylocke, or Winter Soldier, flanks that force him to constantly reposition, map control. He thrives in choke points, so you want to fight him in open areas most of the time using high ground, whatever you can do to be super annoying to him. So the main key takeaways when it goes to facing a Magneto is always want to win out his bubble. You want to then collapse after that. You want to dive and flank, then you want to, try your best to interrupt him while he's using his ultimate. You want to think about characters like Emma Frost, Wolverine. Their primary attack isn't affected by Magneto's ultimate ability, so you can shred him down while he's casting his giant meatball, potentially getting rid of him. Our next hero is the Jolly Green Giant Hulk. And Hulk didn't receive any changes for Marvel Rivals Season 3, so that is something to be aware of, but I feel like this character is still decently strong. And the best way to go about countering Hulk is hard CC, or hard crowd control. This is king. Whenever Hulk dives into your team's backline, you always want to look for a Mantis stun, Luna freeze, Invisible Woman displacement, Winter Soldier hook, any form of crowd control effects that will keep him locked down in one spot so you can easily and quickly burst him down. The faster you burst him down and get him into the Bruce form, the easier it is going to be for the rest of your team to, well, play the video game. Something to be aware of is that usually you can punish his overcommits. If Hulk dives in too deep without backup, he's extremely easy to isolate. Trap him up behind a wall, kite him, or collapse when the leap is down. When you're thinking of just general character counters, think of Punisher, Wolverine, Winter Soldier, even Psylocke if you wanted to throw that into the mix, Starlord, characters that do a ton of damage to rather big objects, as Hulk is a pretty big target, so it's going to be very easy to land a lot of shots on target. I said target a lot of times in that situation, and no, I'm not sponsored by the company, but you get the idea. Moving on, we come to Thor, and Thor didn't really receive any changes in Season 3, but here's essentially how you can counter him and get around him. His dash or his shift is a lot of everything. It's mobility, engage, and ultimate setup. Once it's burned, Thor becomes an easy target for flanks and for hard crowd control effects. Now, he kind of fits into the same realm of Hulk, is that once he goes in, you want to do your best to lock him down and burst him down quickly. Whether it's using some type of displacement, some type of stun, grab, whatever it is. Hard counters to this character, again, just like Hulk. Think Winter Soldier, Punisher, Wolverine, Psylocke, and the list goes on and on. Flyers as well are a great option. Anything that's going to burst him down quickly and he can't, get close enough to close the gap and do a ton of damage to you. That's the whole idea, to keep backing up as he pushes in, keep kiting him out, and lock him down after. Now, moving on to our livable tree, and we have another thing, Groot. Now, when it comes to Groot, the biggest things, to keep in mind is his walls. So characters like Punisher, characters like Winter Soldier, characters like Squirrel Girl, any flying hero, whether it's Storm, Iron Man, Human Torch, to burn the walls quickly or just bypass them entirely is one way to counter him. Then of course we have our hard counter of Wolverine, but basically you want to do your best to burn his walls down quickly. And when Groot's looking for an ult, you can use things like a Magneto shield to absorb it and completely remove it the second he uses it, or you can use Magneto's ultimate the second he pops his ultimate, or you hear the voice line as well. In retrospect, it's very easy to counter a hero like Groot because there's about 1 billion heroes right now that counter him, so that is definitely something to keep in mind. Moving on to Captain America himself. Captain America is a peel heavy supportive tank that excels at shielding and absorbing, damage, staying alive for as long as possible. But now that players understand his limitations, there are ways to break through his defenses. The main purpose of Captain America is stall, in being a backline nuisance, kind of like Hulk, kind of like Thor. And there's two ways of dealing with him. The first way is the second he engages your backline, immediately all 6 players turn around and focus him down super fast, whether it's getting the elimination or forcing him to leave, reset, and then come back. Either option works fine. Either get the elimination or force him out. Those are the best ways in terms of strategy of getting rid of him. Now, in terms of hard counters, crowd control heavy characters. Winter Soldier, think Wolverine. You could even throw Thor in there to kind of displace him with Thor's shift ability. Emma Frost and Thing are also great counters to Captain America. Emma Frost, instantly grab, instantly kick him into the wall. For Thing, you use his shift and he can't really move around, so that's your split second to really burst him down quickly. If those characters are banned, then you're going to be relying more on the duelist section. So again, like I was saying, Winter Soldier, you can throw in Wolverine. You can also say flying heroes as well. Storm, Iron Man, Human Torch. Hela can also be a pretty good idea as well, because Hela is strong in general. But that's really how you counter this character for the most part. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Either when he's, again, jumping into your backline, everybody turns around, forces him out, or forces him down. Then you have the heroes that just straight up counter, which are hard crowd control effects. Now, Peni Parker is a little bit of an interesting one. In my opinion, she can be rather difficult to counter if the Peni player is playing her right, setting up in a small room, enclosed room, where it's going to be very hard to deal with. With that being said, the best way is to immediately break her utility, whether it's the spider nest generators where she gets extra health from as best as possible, and paying attention to the ground, see the web cluster on the ground, and if it's there, there's probably mine, so don't walk over it. And it's another one of those things where hard crowd control effects basically is going to be her greatest weakness, just like, you know, pretty much every single Vanguard in the entire game. You also have high burst characters that excel extremely well at her. Think Punisher, Winter Soldier that can be doing consistent and constant pressure and damage. You also have Phoenix now that will destroy all of her utility with her ultimate and do a ton of damage to Peni in general. You also have Hela. You can throw Wolverine in there as well. You pretty much have to really all in her to get rid of her quickly, otherwise she can just constantly heal herself and just be annoying moving around. But with the current meta of Phoenix getting played a ton, Peni is kind of on the decline because her utility is always going to be getting destroyed, so we're seeing her less and less. But if you do run into those problems, those are the characters you can be thinking about and the strategies. Moving on, we have the Thong. Moving on, we have the Thing. The Thing received one change in Season 3, and that was the addition of ability. And this ability literally turned the character from about a C, B tier pick to a high A, S tier pick. The character's actually insane in Season 3. And with that being said, we're seeing him picked a lot more, and especially when players are playing Black Panther a lot more as well, Thing is a great pickup. But because of that, how do we counter the Thing? How do we counter an unstoppable rock that literally is the hardest thing to kill in the world now? Now, when it comes to the Thing, you absolutely want to abuse his predictable pathing. The Thing wants to walk straight into you for a majority of the time if they're not the smartest of players. But if they are smart, they'll be a little bit more sporadic, but usually they go in a straight line. So you want to do your best to punish him on approach with slows and zonings. Although you can't really slow him or, stun him when he's holding shift. But after shift, you can use things like Bucky's hook, which will stop him in a place. It won't pull him, but it will stop him. You can use things as sleeps, freezes, anything that's not displacement, any stuns or anything like that also works. Phoenix's right click also works, so that's something to be aware of. Characters like Punisher, I wouldn't really say flying characters anymore because he does have a new ability where he can jump to enemies and knock them down if they are flying. Winter Soldier is also a great counter. You can even throw Wolverine, although he cannot kidnap the Thing. He can absolutely knock him down and just shred through his giant health pool. For Emma Frost, Emma is one of the best zoning tanks in the entire game with high range pressure, sustain, and a ton of utility. But she's not unkillable. Now, when it comes to countering Emma Frost, you always want to be aware of her diamond form cooldown. After using it, it's going to be on cooldown for a while. This is your chance to use forms of any displacement or stunning, things like that, because she no longer has that invulnerability from those. When Emma Frost is ulting, do your best to break line of sight, whether it's behind a cart, behind pillars, behind walls, so that you're not seduced by Emma Frost. Although it might be difficult because she is rather... But anyways, going on from that, characters that counter her, flying characters. Phoenix is a great counter as well. You can throw Wolverine in there if you really want to, because he can grab Emma when she's in normal form and shred her down, but it is hit or miss. And you constantly want to be breaking her mind's eye, which is her shield, as often as possible, so that's one less shield you have to worry about when you're playing the game. And that's essentially how you counter Emma Frost. Now we come to our 18 inches of Venom. Now, Venom is a interesting character. Venom is a high damage, mobility heavy dive tank who thrives in chaos, but he's also fragile if misplayed. Now, the biggest things you want to keep in mind is that you always want to be using some sort of displacement, whether it's a hook, knock-up, sleep, freeze, whatever. The list goes on and on. Crowd control, you understand it by now, hopefully. In terms of duelists or, other heroes that counter Venom, characters like Thing is a great counter. Emma Frost is also another great Vanguard counter. For the duelist part, we have Wolverine, Bucky, Punisher. I would even throw Phoenix in there because she does remove his overheal or his overshield when she ults. So that is something to keep in mind. And then any other high burst DPS and flyers as well are great counters. And it's pretty telepathed, or whatever the word is, when he is going to be going in. Most of the time he's going to be climbing up on a wall, then looking to dash in, or he's going to be swinging, then dashing in. But it's probably going to be the first option of climbing on the wall, as most players that play Venom are decently good at Venom, so they understand that you need to be climbing up the wall rather than this shifting and going in. But it's pretty easy to know when he's going to go in. But anyways, that was the Vanguard section of the Season 3 Counterclass video. Before we move on to the Duelist section, just another quick reminder that at 20,000 subscribers, we're going to be doing a giveaway. Maybe at 15,000 subscribers, if we manage to reach that, we'll be giving away some Season 3 either Battle Pass or skins. Maybe the Psylocke Pool Party skin, who knows? So make sure to subscribe. And if you want Marvel Rivals coaching, make sure to check out my Fiverr. But anyways, onto the Duelist section. Now, diving straight in, let's begin with Black Panther. Now, Black Panther didn't really receive any changes. The only thing that he received or got changed was that his hit registration with his dashes is a lot better now. That's why you're seeing him played a ton. And people think this character is completely OP. Well, there's some pretty easy counters that make this character pretty much obsolete. The first counter to be looking at is the Thing. The Thing can dash, make them unable to move, and you can quickly burst them down. You have Hulk Namor team up, which is also another great counter. And if you feel like your strategists in the backline are constantly going down or getting eliminated, tell them to pick two heroes. All you have to play is Cloak and Dagger and Invisible Woman. All you have to do is have your two strategists sit on top of one another. You place the invisible shield, and you place your right-click bubble when you're getting dove by the Black Panther as Cloak, and you literally dance around in the bubble and the shield, and he will never die, because he simply just doesn't do enough damage. This is why people don't understand how easy it is to counter this character. People will still ban him over other characters because they don't know how to do this. I'm not really sure why. Cloak and Dagger is a very good character right now. Same with Invisible Woman. They can keep each other alive in the backline quite literally forever. So if you find that's happening quite consistently, just pick those two heroes. And if worst case scenario, also add Thing, add Namor, add Winter Soldier, add the whole shebang, add Adam Warlock, do all you can. All you really need, again, Invisible Woman, Cloak and Dagger, and literally that's it. Because the whole reason why Black Panther is so annoying is because he instantly deletes your strategist line. So if you have those two strategists healing one another, you don't have to worry about your strategist dying, and there will be no snowball effect where you lose your strategist and they can't heal the rest of the team. Now, at first glance, the Black Widow might not seem like the strongest duelist, but leave her unchecked and she quickly becomes a nightmare. In the hands of a skilled player with sharp aim, and especially when boosted by a Mantis with her damage boost, she can quite literally one-shot any squishy target in the entire game. So how do we deal with a character like Black Widow? Honestly, don't even bother trading shots at long range. This is where Widow thrives. Challenging her from across the map as a short-range duelist is asking to get deleted. Instead, your best bet is to flank aggressively or apply consistent pressure. Widow's aim becomes much less reliable in chaotic mid to close range fights, so you want to close the gap. This is going to be your biggest lifeline and your biggest friend. Now, if we're talking about direct counters, Hawkeye is arguably the only true one. He brings consistent poke and doesn't rely as heavily on a precise shot, meaning he can pressure Widow at her own game. However, Widow does struggle with pressure. Heroes like Captain America can stay on top of her with his shield and constant disruption. You also have close range unpredictability. Her aim gets shaky under pressure. You also have flank denial. Any hero that forces her off the high ground or denies her vision will ruin her tempo. And if you are attempting to dive a Black Widow, try to dive with 2 players. That's probably going to be your best option when it comes to doing a dive, any type of dive strategy on her. Now, moving on to Hawkeye, he can be a menace in the hands of a sharp-eyed player. He thrives in the neutral game, those long, drawn-out poking faces where no team has committed yet. So how do we counter Hawkeye? Well, tanks are his natural enemy. Magneto can walk him down while throwing out shields, and Hulk or Venom can dive him to force movement. Captain America is particularly annoying for Hawkeye. Constant pressure from his shield and body presence forces Hawkeye to focus elsewhere, reducing his impact on your backline. You also have backline divers like Black Panther, IronFist, Psylocke, Starlord played aggressively, can all burst him down before he can really react. Of course, this all has to be perfectly timed. Just make sure he doesn't have an open angle or a disengaged path. Then, of course, there's always sniper duels, mirror picks like Hawkeye or a good Black Widow. You can even throw Hela, Phoenix, can challenge him from range and limit his impact. In terms of strategy, the whole idea is to deny him space and to deny him line of sight. Now, moving on, we have Hela, who is still arguably probably one of, if not the best duelist in Marvel Rivals currently. Her damage output is insane, and it can be very difficult to do anything to her. So how do we shut down Hela? Well, you never let her set up. Don't give her free high ground or safe angles. Call her position out, ping her constantly, and deny those easy sidelines. Then you want to track her bird. Her entire rhythm is tied to it. No bird equals no escape. Dive her immediately when it's down, and of course burn her ultimate. Her ultimate can end fights, but only if you let it. Focus it, poke it, or block it with Strange's Flight or Magneto's Meteor M. Then you want to maybe break her spacing. Heroes like Black Panther or IronFist can force her to fight on your terms. IronFist ignores her stun and dances through her pressure. Captain America, Psylocke keep her locked down and panicked. Then of course, if you're trying to deal her without range, you can either do a mirror, you can do Hawkeye, Black Widow, and you can even throw in Phoenix now. Moving on, we have IronFist, and he can be one of the slippiest, hardest to lock down characters in the entire game. So how do we counter him? Let's clear something up. Stop shooting him when he's blocking. For whatever reason, people still haven't learned this. When IronFist enters his blocking stance, if you shoot him, he gains shield and reflects damage, or absorbs damage. So just don't. Besides that, burst characters in crowd control are your best friend. Winter Soldier is great here. His hook, burst, and anti-dive tools punish IronFist hard. Namor can delete him with one good burst rotation. Mantis, Hela, Luna, Phoenix, all other forms of hard crowd control effects that can interrupt his flow and stop his momentum is probably some of the better counters you can face. Moving on, we come to Iron Man. Now, Iron Man did get some nerfs, so he's not getting played as much, but he's still pretty decent. Iron Man is a flying hero, so hit scan is the name of the game. Adam Warlock is a top tier counter. His primary is hit scan, his sustain is nuts, and his ultimate gives him survivability through his burst. Magneto can absorb Iron Man's ult and return fire with devastating damage. Then you can also throw in Namor in there as well if you really wanted to, with long range pressure from his squid turrets, especially with his new buff where he's easier to hit flying targets as well. Spider-Man is also a doable counter. Then of course we have every hit scan in the game. Hela, Phoenix, Punisher. You could throw in Winter Soldier, you could even say Hawkeye as well if you wanted to, and so on. Now let's talk about the melee menace Magik. Now Magik isn't really a zoning or poking character. She needs to be in your face, landing slashes and portal combos to get value. So what works? Winter Soldier punishes her with area denial and hard burst. That is certainly true. Peni Parker is excellent. Her mind spots and right click stun punishes Magik for trying to dive in. And the thing tanks her burst and punishes her with a big slam crowd control. You could also throw Emma Frost into the mix as well, very solid character. You could even throw Namor, especially with the Gamma team up. Then when it comes to her ultimate Dark Child, your win condition is burst plus crowd control. So Hawkeye headshots, Hela poke, Starlord chip her down quite quickly. You can Mantis sleep, Luna freeze, or even a well-timed storm tornado can absolutely shut her down. But the number one tip is don't solo her during her ults. If one player tries to take her on alone, you're just feeding her a reset, play as a team, and you'll burn her down together. Now we move on to Moon Knight, and back in Season 2 he gets some changes, nothing too crazy. But how do we shut him down? Well, the first and foremost thing is to always destroy his Unk, no matter where it is, no matter what it is. That is one of the biggest reasons why he does a ton of damage if you're not paying attention. Following that, the other ways to shut him down is to force him into close range, scrappy fights where he can't freely move around, freely roam around. Characters like Captain America and Thor are great at closing the gap and forcing duels he doesn't want. Venom can out-sustain and punish him for diving or diving in. In terms of duelists, Psylocke, Starlord, and any of the flying heroes, as well as Hela and pretty much any head scan character in the entire game can completely shut him down based on range, and you're not able to hit a flying character that well with projectiles like Moon Knight. So it's definitely something to keep in mind. Namor Jr., whatever you want to call it. How do you counter a hero that counters a lot of the diving heroes? The best way to counter him is by first looking for his squids and immediately destroying them. I can't tell you the amount of times my teammates walk past the squids and don't shoot them. Please, just shoot them. Next, you want to bait out his Blessing of the Deep ability, which is his shift ability, which is the bubble. It's on a 20-second long cooldown now, so it's pretty easy to track when he uses it and how to easily capitalize on that. And the hero counters you want to be looking for are characters like Winter Soldier. He excels here. He outranges Namor. He can easily delete the squids and he won't get overwhelmed by the surprise. Hela and Hawkeye bring heavy long range bursts. Just keep in mind Hawkeye's low charge bow does no damage to the squids. It does some damage, but it's pretty obsolete. Then of course one solid counter is always going to be Moon Knight. It's a secret tech pick. His bouncy, shots ricochet off the squids and hit Namor teammates hiding near them. So very good counter if Namor is that big of a threat. I wouldn't recommend picking that because he's not the best. Now moving on to Psylocke, the Burst Assassin. First, her ultimate targets whatever is closest so you can bait it out. And the biggest thing, when she's using her ultimate, you want to tell your team to stack. Have everybody inside of the ultimate and, well, you can survive it. You can also place a shield, if you're playing Invisible Woman, on your other healer and just heal each other inside of the ultimate. It doesn't do enough damage because she'll be slashing each of you, and if you just heal each other, you're fine. But in terms of specific heroes, Winter Soldier is a great pick. If she whiffs a dash or doesn't find immediate value, he punishes her hard with Burst. Character like Namor, again, shows up strong, especially when you stay near his turrets, and a Psylocke has to deal with that. Anyone with burst plus crowd control makes her invisible. Think Starlord, maybe Black Panther if you wanted to throw that in there. Her weaknesses is that she needs to dash in, land everything, and dash out. You want to deny that with them, and she becomes very vulnerable. Now, Punisher is an absolute menace though, even though he did get nerfed. Now, you definitely want to dive him. He's pretty easy to dive. The character isn't amazing when he's getting dived. He only has one real movement ability, which is his shift, but he can kind of disappear with his right click. So that isn't the biggest thing to worry about. Then you have characters like, Hawkeye, Hela, Phoenix. All those are perfect counters as well. So those are things to be keeping in mind. Magneto is also a really great option here. This character can easily absorb Punisher's ultimate and immediately throw out his Meteor M to instantly nuke him. Moving on, we have Scarlet Witch. So when it comes to countering this hero, Mantis hard counters her with her sleep and sustain as well as stun. And pretty much every single character in this entire game counters Scarlet Witch. She is a terrible character. She really doesn't provide anything. Her ultimate's not good. She dies to quite literally the smallest pebble in the entire world. And I just recommend not playing her at all. There's way too many ways to shut her down. Literally, I could go on and on, make an hour-long video about everything that shuts down Scarlet Witch. But for the most part, you're looking at your hit scan characters. You're looking at Hawkeye, you're looking at Hela, you're looking at Phoenix, you're looking at Winter Soldier. The only thing that she counters is flyers some of the time, but you're better off just picking a hit scan because it's going to be better for your team in general, and that's really about it. Moving on, we have Spider-Man, and his biggest thing about him is that he's able to pull you off the map, and that's probably the only thing you have to worry about. Besides that, you should be looking at anti-dive specialists like Namor, Winter Soldier, Starlord. You could throw Scarlet Witch into there as well if you wanted to. Triple support team compositions. The Thing, Hela, Hawkeye, Phoenix, all of these are decent characters that can counter him. Mainly, if you're having that much trouble with Spider-Man, then I would look at triple support. Probably your best option. If the other characters are banned, then yeah, triple support. Then moving on to Squirrel Girl, the biggest things you want to keep in mind is that vertical control is your best tool. You always want to be sitting up high or flying around, as it's going to be relatively hard for the Squirrel Girl to hit you. Yes, that is certainly true. You could also throw in Starlord as well, very solid counter. Now, some of the better counters is Punisher. It shreds her with consistent damage and easily shreds down her ultimate. Hela bursts and stuns before she can chain her kit, and you always want to avoid tight spaces. She's strongest in cramped hallways and doorways where her AoE shines, especially on the new map Araco. When you're pushing the first point or the first payload, that little, top section where the bridge is, that's a perfect area for Squirrel Girl. Moving on to Starlord. Starlord can be super dominant, especially paired up with the Res team composition. The characters you're going to be looking out for are Namor. Constant turret pressure and a spear attack force Starlord to reposition consistently. For Hela, one of the hardest counters, her unpredictable burst from long range catches him mid-leap or mid-dash, everything. Phoenix is also on the same thing because he's just as good, as well as Hawkeye. Hawkeye's up there as well in my opinion. And you never want to challenge him in neutral without cooldowns. You need burst, coordination, and crowd control to really shut him down. Magneto's ultimate completely denies his ultimate as well, so time it right and you'll race Starlord before he flips out. Now, when it comes to Storm, it's pretty straightforward on how to counter her. Every hit scan in the entire game counters a flying character. Punisher, Starlord, Psylocke, you could say Winter Soldier if you wanted to, Hela, Phoenix, the list goes on and on. And when Storm is ulting, you should definitely use your Phoenix ult because it will put her to 41 HP. She loses her entire overshield, and she doesn't regain that HP back unless she's in an ult, of course, but you should definitely check it out. Moving on, we have Winter Soldier. So how do we counter Winter Soldier? Think of Hawkeye and Hela, outrange and outpoke him. If you keep distance, he can't safely burst. Magneto is an accrual counter as well. His bubble blocks a Bucky's hook and his ult mark, which is very nice because it acts as a cleanse. You can also hit him with the Meteor M when he's going for an ult as well. You can also throw in other characters as well. Phoenix, very good, solid counter. Moving on, we come to Wolverine. He's often banned, but when he's not, he can destroy your backline and all of your Vanguards if not checked. So how do we counter him? The Thing is a strong frontline answer. He can't be grabbed. Emma Frost in Diamond form also denies his grab attempts. Magneto can bubble grab teammates or himself to break the chain. Invisible Woman can push or pull allies out of danger, one of the best safe tools against Wolverine. Other effective picks are Winter Soldier, Squirrel Girl, Namor, all offer high burst or crowd control to lock him down, and you always want to communicate with your team when his passive Second Life is popped. It's a long cooldown and opens up a kill window. So moving on to Mr. Fantastic, you should be looking at Hela, Hawkeye, and Widow. You outrange and poke him down before he can close in. Wolverine can actually thread through his big form and gains passive charges from hitting him. During his giant invulnerable form, just wait it out. He's immune to crowd control, but you can't pressure you much. For the most part, the best way to deal with him is just to poke him out, and that's all you have to worry about. Moving on to the Human Torch is a menace when played right, especially with off-angle pressure and a support like an Invisible Woman keeping him safe. So how to counter Torch? You want to watch for ground fire setups. It usually signals a dive is coming. You want to spread out and approach from multiple angles and deny him a full team burst. Punisher, Psylocke, Hela, Starlord, Hawkeye, Phoenix all excel here as hit scan or burst counters. And you want to keep vision on him. Torch thrives on slipping out of the sightlines and coming in hot. So when it comes to countering Phoenix, there's not a lot that can counter her. The best things that I've found is Punisher or any hit scan characters, but the best counter is Hela to win a 1v1 duel against Phoenix. Hela should be able to 2-tap Phoenix from across the map. While Phoenix can't really do that, she does a little bit less damage with just her primary attack, minus the passive ability that she has. So the best optimal way to really take her out is getting a Hela that can match her. In terms of her ultimate, the best way to counter her ultimate is by literally just shooting at it. Every character in the entire game can shoot at it when it's flying towards you, and you can quickly get rid of it. Now moving on to our strategist section, we have Adam Warlock. Adam Warlock is extremely effective, especially when you run in a res-based comp, but his strength lies in timing. The key to countering him is track his cooldowns. His Soulbond ability, when it ends, it goes on a 40-second cooldown. That's your window. After it expires, you can dive the backline aggressively while his team lacks healing and sustain. His Resurrection ultimate is the second threat. As soon as you hear the cast, find it fast, resurrect the teammates, return with low HP. Eliminate them before Adam can heal them with his finger snap. Adam doesn't have really hard counters. Instead, it's all about baiting key cooldowns and understanding windows of vulnerability. Moving on, we have Cloak and Dagger, who's a super solid strategist currently. The biggest thing to be looking out for is Cloak's Fade ability, which is the right click. It's on a 12-second cooldown, which is long enough to punish them if baited early. Once Fade is down, call it out to your team. They're very vulnerable. Let's talk about how to counter her ultimate. Magneto can charge and nuke them mid-dash on the third dash, so if you charge for 3 dashes and you throw, that's enough to connect. Widowmaker with the damage boost, Hawkeye can all one-shot her inside of her ultimate. And for the most part, if you focus fire her down with the rest of your team while she ults, you should be able to shred her down pretty much instantly. Then moving on, we come to Jeff, and Jeff isn't as popular anymore, but the biggest things you should be looking out for is Hawkeye, Luna Snow Freeze, Mantis Sleep, Winter Soldier Hook can all lock him down if timed correctly. IronFist, Magneto, Thor, and Iron Man all bring bursts that can delete Jeff before he escapes. And again, Hawkeye is exceptional to just charge a full power headshot while tracking him underground. As soon as he surfaces, you fire and you get rid of him. Now when it comes to Loki, Loki's strength lies in his regeneration domain and clone trickery, but they are easy to exploit if you pay attention. When it comes to countering Loki, you want to force out his regeneration domain before you engage. They're on long cooldowns, so once they're down, he and his team become much easier to burst. Moon Knight can clear his clones quickly. Star-Lord's Blazer Barrage tactics and tracks invisible targets like Loki. Storm's AoE works great for zoning and zone control. You always want to be aware of the totem placements, getting rid of the clones as quickly as possible, because the second you get rid of the clones, he's going to be doing less and less healing. You also be aware of when he uses his teleport ability. You can tell that when he snaps his fingers and teleports across. It's on a cooldown. You can easily call that out to the rest of your team and challenge and force that out and follow it. When it comes to Luna Snow, if you played a thing, Doctor Strange or Iron Fist, avoid getting frozen mid-ult. These orbs disable abilities and can ruin your combo. You want to apply constant pressure. Luna often panics and pops her ultimate defensively when flanked, and you can counter her ult by Magneto soaking up damage, then hitting her with a giant meatball, Hawkeye landing a charged headshot, and Punisher with or without Rocket's amplifier, shredding her with his ultimate, especially with a Cloak E that gives her the damage vulnerability. That's also a great combo. So when it comes to Mantis, Mantis brings a ton of value, especially when paired with Adam Warlock. Her sleep ability is deadly in close range fights, and her ultimate gives her extra survivability. So how do we punish her? Doctor Strange's ult can burst her when her ult ends. Punisher can burn through her with ease. If she overextends solo, even Psylocke can take her down solo with her ultimate. She's slippery, but if you focus burst damage or disrupt her rhythm, she's easy to punish, especially if she doesn't have Adam backing her up with a team up. Most of the time, it's literally just focus firing targets down wherever Mantis is. Pretty easy to do. So when it comes to the Rocket Raccoon, or otherwise known as the Trash Panda, you have to be aware of some certain things. First is BRB Beacon that revives a teammate every 45 seconds within a 50-meter radius. When you're going on a flank or you're playing against a rocket, that's what you have to be looking out for first. Remove that, half of the battle's gone. Secondly, when it comes to beating him with the best strategy, you want to coordinate burst damage. Rocket has low HP, but he's just a little hard to catch. You can land any crowd control ability, freeze, sleep, hook, and he should instantly die. If Rocket drops his amplifier, focus it down immediately. Most players forget it can be destroyed, it's not indestructible. And if you're playing against a Rocket, it's probably in your best interest to literally just pick Phoenix, because having Phoenix in the game with a Rocket is not the best case scenario for the Rocket, because all of his utility gets destroyed the second you ult. Moving on, we have Invisible Woman. Invisible Woman is all about displacement. She'll yank you off high ground, into pits, or right into the enemy core. So how do we deal with her? Well, you always want to be cautious near edges. If she pushes you and there's no escape path, you're more than likely back at the respawn screen. That's why Doctor Strange is a solid counter. If you pop your Eye of Agamotto instead of her Invisible Boundary ultimate, you can catch her while she's invisible and focus fire her down. When she shields a teammate, focus and destroy that shield immediately. It's tied to her healing and sustain. Like Adam, coordination is everything. The more your team communicates during her ult, the less effective she becomes. Invisible Woman doesn't have many direct counters, but strategy, positioning awareness, and team calls are the absolute key to dominating Invisible Woman. Now last but certainly not least, we have Ultron. Now, Ultron is a very interesting character because he's more of a duelist rather than a strategist in my opinion, although he did get some recent nerfs in Season 3, so his survivability is a little bit less because he has a less cooldown or less timer in his shift phase from 8 seconds to 6, and his right click doesn't heal himself as much as it used to, which is all very good. The biggest things you want to be thinking about when you're playing against an Ultron are, of course, hit scan characters, Hela, Phoenix, Punisher, Winter Soldier if you want to throw that in there, Hawkeye, Black Widow, all the hit scan characters there are in this game. Another great one is Starlord. When Ultron uses his ultimate, he flies up into the air and, summons all of his other Ultrons and shoots. But because if it's a projectile, you can Starlord ult to try to counter it. It's a 1-for-1 ult. Starlord gets his ult extremely fast, as well as Ultron, so you can time them pretty much together. As Ultron's ulting, all you have to do is ult a Starlord and you can easily shut him down. He's a very great counter. You also have Magneto, who can absorb a lot of Ultron's shots from his ultimate into Meteor M, which is another great idea. Now, people say Spider-Man, but I would recommend not doing that because all Ultron has to do is press right click and the Spider-Man combo is pretty much useless. But for the most part, you want to get up close to him if you're playing like a Psylocke, quickly burst them down, or just play from a range and use Hela, Phoenix. And that's pretty much about it. And if you're playing against people that have the drone ability on them, you want to do your best to try to put them into a position that breaks line of sight of Ultron. Because after like a second or two, Ultron's drone will actually go away because he needs line of sight constantly. And then the drone will go away, so you have a better 1v1 than with the Ultron ability. But anyways, that was how you pretty much counter every single hero in Marvel Rivals Season 3. It took quite a long time to make this video, so hopefully it helped you out. Again, like the video if you like it, greatly helps out the video, and it greatly helps out the channel. Subscribe if you're new, we're trying to build the biggest and best Marvel Rivals community here, so might as well join in. But regardless, I hope you have a great and safe day, and I'll catch you in the next one.